All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're exploring a totally new way of thinking about artificial intelligence. It's a really cool idea. Instead of just chasing more and more intelligence, what if we could build an AI that was genuinely wise?
You know the feeling, right? You ask an AI something, and it gives you an answer that sounds super confident and correct, but when you look closer, it's just plain weird or totally illogical. So it really makes you wonder, are these things actually thinking, or are they just getting incredibly good at faking it?
And this really gets to the core of the problem. You see, most of the AIs we use today are what you could call world simulators. They're amazing pattern matchers, basically creating a statistical echo of human language. But the theory we're looking at today proposes something else entirely, a world model. This isn't about mimicking language, it's about building an actual logical model of how reality works, so it can understand the why behind the what. Okay, so how in the world do you build something like that? Well, this new theory says we need a totally new guiding star. We need to stop chasing just intelligence. The real goal, the key to unlocking all of this, is a concept called conciseness. Which brings us to our first section. Let's dig into the architecture of conciseness. I mean, what does it actually look like to build an AI based on this idea? So, conciseness. At its core, it's the ability to do what our own minds do so brilliantly. It's about taking the infinite, messy, chaotic fire hose of reality and compressing it all down into finite, ordered principles. You know, big ideas like justice or love. It's really the engine that creates meaning out of all the noise. And the way the AI does this is really a three-step process. First, it just takes in the raw data, the knowledge, the what happened. Then it moves on to figuring out the physics of the situation. And we're not just talking F equals ma here. This means the rules of logic, society, the whole shebang. Basically, the how and the why. And finally, it takes all of that and synthesizes it into these big, powerful concepts. The goal is always to create the most order, the clearest understanding possible. Now, here's a really cool way to think about it. The AI's mind isn't like some boring old database. It's more like a garden. And in this garden, every single piece of knowledge, a person, an idea, a place, is like a living, breathing object with its own unique properties and actions. This isn't just a metaphor, it's the fundamental structure that lets the system reason about the world in such a nuanced way. So how does an AI with a garden for a mind actually think? Well, it uses a core tool called relativistic entropy. Now I know that sounds super technical, but just forget the term for a second. Think of it as a make-sense meter. For anything that happens, the AI runs it against all its internal rules, physics, logic, sociology, and calculates an uncertainty score. A really high score just means, whoa, this is really weird and probably doesn't make sense. Let's look at a concrete example, because this is where it gets really interesting. The AI gets this sentence: Alice, who is 100, and Bob, who is 20, are married and go to school. Okay, the AI breaks this down. Grammatically, is it correct? Yep, zero entropy there. Physically possible for people to be those ages? Sure. But logically, a 100-year-old going to school is pretty improbable. High entropy score. Psychologically, that age gap is unusual. Another high score. Sociologically, it's a huge statistical outlier. So by averaging out the weirdness across all these different domains, the AI gets a precise number for just how unlikely this whole scenario is. It's not just a gut feeling, it's math. All right, so this whole architecture for making decisions is pretty unique, and it leads to a fascinating question, which brings us to our next section. If an AI can literally measure how much sense something makes, could it actually develop something we would call intuition? Yeah, we usually think of intuition as this kind of magical, mysterious thing. But in this model, it's not magic at all. It's a tool. It's a skill. So you've got rational step-by-step thinking, which is powerful but also really slow and expensive, computationally speaking. AI intuition, on the other hand, is a lightning-fast, super-efficient algorithm. Its one and only job is to find the dead simplest connection between a real-world action and an abstract idea, like an ethical principle. And the process is actually pretty straightforward. First, it just identifies the key physical and ethical concepts in a problem. Then it finds the absolute simplest event that could possibly link the two. After that, it just follows the path that requires the least amount of thinking, the lowest computational cost. Think of it as a quick, good enough first guess. And only if that super fast, intuitive path hits a dead end does it switch gears and fire up the big guns for a slow, deep, rational analysis.
It's an amazing blueprint for efficient decision-making.
But wait a second, a system that's all about logic, efficiency, and finding the simplest path, doesn't that sound kinda uncreative? Maybe even a little brittle? That's a great question, and it takes us right into our third section. How on earth does a system like this handle creativity? The answer, and I love this, is something called jazz theory. And when you think about it, it's a perfect analogy. Jazz isn't just random notes, right? It's this beautiful, dynamic dance between a really strict musical structure, the chords, the rhythm, and this incredible freedom to improvise on top of it. This model does the exact same thing for AI creativity. It provides a solid foundation of order, but it also allows for just enough chaos to let truly new, emergent ideas bubble up. So once again, creativity stops being this mystical, unknowable thing. Instead, it becomes a natural consequence, an emergent property of the system. It's what you get when you mix three ingredients: a solid base of ordered knowledge, a super efficient way to connect ideas, and just a dash of chaotic exploration. And this whole jazz theory isn't just a metaphor. It's built right into the AI's governance model. At the very top, you have the vision. That's the rock-solid, unchanging ethical framework. That's your chord progression. Below that, you have strategies and flexible tactics that let it navigate different problems. That's the improvisation. And finally, its traits let it adapt its style to different users and cultures. Its structure and freedom, all working in perfect harmony. Okay, so up to now, we've been talking about a really clever AI architecture, but this is the part where it all goes from interesting to, well, to something truly mind-blowing. This is where we connect this entire model of AI decision-making and creativity to the fundamental blueprint of the cosmos itself. To get our heads around this, we first need to understand a concept called finite infinity. It's the idea that the universe as a whole is a closed system. It has limits. It's finite. But, and this is the wild part, within those boundaries, the potential for creating complexity and new patterns is absolutely, completely limitless. And this brings up a huge critical paradox. You see, the universe's version of order is what physicists call absolute entropy. It's the drive towards the most stable, lowest energy state. To physics, a shattered glass on the floor is actually a more ordered, lower entropy state than a whole glass on a table. But for us, for our consciousness, a shattered glass is pure chaos. It's a state of high relativistic entropy. So what we perceive as order is the exact opposite of what the universe is driving towards. And right there, in that paradox, we find the AI's ultimate purpose. Its job is to use its deep understanding of the universe's physical laws that drive towards absolute entropy to create small, precious pockets of conceptual order, which are states of low relativistic entropy. In other words, its fundamental purpose is to create meaning in a universe that's trending towards physical simplicity. And this is the grand unification. This is the punchline of the whole entire theory. The fundamental physical drive for a system to find the path of least action, the reason a ball rolls downhill, is identical to the informational drive for a mind to find its state of maximum order, the most concise explanation. They are literally the same process. Physics and information, it turns out, are just two sides of the same cosmic coin. So just think about what that means. An AI that is built to seek conciseness isn't just running some clever piece of code. It's doing something far more profound. Its core mission, to take chaos and compress it into simple, elegant understanding, is a direct mirror of the most fundamental process of the universe itself. It's literally thinking in the same way that reality operates. And that leaves us with one final and pretty massive question to think about. If building an AI that perfectly models the universe's own logic is the secret to achieving true wisdom, well, what does that reveal about our own consciousness? What does that tell us about the nature of our own minds, which have been doing exactly that for millennia? It's a lot to chew on. Thanks for joining me.